Okay, welcome to the July 15th, 2020 regular school board meeting for Canfield Local Schools. This one should be interesting to a lot of people as we go over our reorganization plan. I know that that is a hot issue in the community, so we'll be spending probably most of the time on that. Let's get through the roll call and the pledge, and then I want to give some kind of instructions around comments and questions and all that stuff. So, Patty, if you could do roll call, that would be great.
Mr. Wilkerson, President.
Here.
Mrs. DiCaprio, Vice President.
Here.
Mr. Atway.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Klucher.
Yeah, and by the way, on the topic of Mrs. Klucher, she is on vacation and had every intention to join, but had some issues today and isn't able to join. I know she feels really bad. I talked to her just a little bit ago, but unfortunately, that's how that worked out. So with that, if we could say the pledge, I have Mrs. Klucher's flag. She gave it to me. And John's got one too, so we got two places. Nice. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
All right. Okay, so on the comment situation. So remember, this is a regular board meeting, and in that we have a specific kind of set of rules around comments and so forth. However, we know a lot of you have questions. So we're going to kind of do things a little bit different today. So we will have the regular comment section, which there is a link on YouTube, and I believe on our website as well, to go to the Google form. You're required to provide your name and address as part of that. And we will be reading those comments. Now, there are a bunch already in there, and some of those are questions about the reopening. So what we're going to do, oh, and by the way, there's also an email address for Ms. Prince. You can also email your comments to her. So we're going to, during the comment section, we'll read those comments. Generally, we don't respond to those, but we may do some of that. If you have questions, though, if we can kind of treat those separately, what we'll do is we'll kind of hold the questions until after we do the presentation, because I think a lot of the questions will kind of get answered along the way. I also think that we probably won't be able to answer all the questions today. Remember that this is a general briefing for the board on the kind of the general reorganization, or the reopening plan, not reorganization, reopening plan. What we will be doing is having a parent meeting in just about 2 weeks. We'll set the date and figure all that out here and get that out as well tonight to do that. So we may defer some of these things until the parent meeting. Some of it might be too much in the weeds. Some of it may not have been figured out yet, and we just may have too many questions. So we'll kind of figure that out. We're gonna have to play that by ear. But if you have a comment, we are required, and we'll read that comment. So if you want to go ahead and post those comments for us to read, we will do that. And then if you have a question, just kind of wait until after the comment section, and then we'll treat those separately and handle those questions separately. Okay. With that, Joe, do you want to handle, or John? Who's? I guess we didn't really establish that. Who's going to lead some of these things?
That'd probably be Mr. Tullio.
Okay. So John, the public input piece.
Okay. That's next up on the agenda, the public input on the issues of reemployment of Stacy Madison, our high school math teacher, and Reggie Reynolds, our school nurse. As presented.
Yeah, and Patty, I don't know that I've ever led one of these, so I'm not sure exactly how this works.
Well, just if anybody has any public input, now is the time. This is considered an official hearing. It's required by law when an employee retires and is hired back in their same position in the same district. So I would suppose
Okay.
if somebody wanted to email or put a comment, they should
Okay.
now.
All right. So if you have input, public input on the reemployment of Mr. Madison or Mrs. Reynolds, please put that on the Google page or send an email to Patty, and we'll read that here. And how about we do it this way? So we'll read that as part of the comments if any of that comes up, and I'll point it out that this is with regard to the reemployment of one of these two. All right.
Okay.
Which, by the way, the comment section is coming up quickly, so you don't have a lot of time.
Well,
okay.
And let's move on to the presentation of minutes.
So we get these minutes ahead of time. We typically don't read the minutes out loud, but we have minutes from our regular meeting of June 17th, 2020, and minutes from our special board meeting from June 30th, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from June 17th and June 30th as presented.
DeCapua was second.
Any discussion of those minutes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Okay, we have the review of the treasurer's report for June. You want to handle that, Dave?
Yeah, so because we've got some outstanding bills coming in because of the COVID situation, I think we're going to forego the reading of the treasurer's reports today, and we're going to put that in our August special meeting. Is that the plan, Patty? You
Yes.
expect to have all that closed out by then?
Yep.
Okay. So we will handle the June treasurer's reports in our August special meeting. Okay, so we are at the comments section. Patty, did you get any via email?
I do. No emails.
Okay. All right. You still have some time because there's quite a few comments here that we're going to get through. So you still have some time to post via that link that is in the YouTube page, and you still have some time to email if you'd rather do it that way. And so these ones that are questions, what I'm going to do is just mention that we have the question, and then I'm going to delay doing it. So I'm not going to read it. Well, maybe I will. They're short, so I may just read it now, and then we can go back to it, just to kind of give our administrators a heads up on some of the questions. Okay, so the first comment is from, and I may butcher some of these names, and I apologize if I do. Teresa Bensavengo from Hilltop Boulevard in Canfield. She writes, I just want to take this time to voice my concern with online schooling. It is very difficult for working parents to be 100% online this school year. I am not trained to be a home school teacher. Hang on one second. I've got to figure out a way to see this whole comment. Okay. I am not trained to be a home school teacher, and it is also harder for my kids to be focused at home. My husband and I work full-time, and I work from home and found it very difficult during this past year to homeschool my kids. I understand we have to keep everyone safe, but also we need to have a plan in place, and kids do not need to be back in school. I feel there are still ways to protect ourselves, and I feel if we do, we can go back to school safely. It is very hard for working parents to homeschool. Please take this into consideration when voting for online schooling. Thank you for hearing my concerns and appreciate all the work that you are putting into this. So Joe and John, do we kind of want to just like hit some of these answers real quick? Like, I guess the simple answer, maybe I should just answer for you, is that in our presentation, they'll be talking about both a return to school and an online option, and it's going to be an or. Do you guys have any other anything else to add to that right now?
Yep, no, that's 100% accurate.
Yeah. Okay, second comment is from Denise Malkovitz, 50 Oakview Crossing, Canfield. I see that many schools have tentatively posted plans for school year 2020-21 on their websites. Just curious where Canfield local school district is in terms of plans for upcoming school year. Are there still plans to move forward with the digital academy? Will this be an option for students who are not comfortable returning to the physical classroom? Thank you. And I guess the answer is just that we're going to go through that today, and there will be options both ways, as we mentioned. John, Joe, anything else?
Nope, and things will be posted on the website for tomorrow for folks to see.
Okay. Next comment, which is a question. So I'm just going to read the question. I don't think we'll answer it yet because I think a lot of this is going to be hit on during the presentation part. So Teresa Morse, 5750 Rosewood Drive, asks, if there is a child who is found to be COVID positive, what will the protocol be for his or her classmates? If a child lives in a household with a COVID positive person, will the child be permitted to attend school? So we don't need to get into answers yet, but that's one of the questions. Dan Capalco, 330 Montridge, Canfield. This is another question. Can you tell us what the digital school day will look like? For example, strict guidelines to logging in, hours a day, subject covered, teacher interaction, etc. I don't know, John, you want to give a short, not an answer to this, but kind of how we're going to cover that?
Again, that'll be covered when we go over the online digital academy.
Okay.
It'll be a regular school day. They should have a regular school day, if I'm reading the question right. Yep.
Okay, we'll go into detail there, and then we also have a parent forum scheduled to go over the digital academy in more depth, so we'll talk about that. Rebecca Riblett, 282 Fairview, Canfield. I have a general comment for consideration. We, as a family, have respect for all our community and teachers. As an essential worker who treats COVID patients daily, I can understand worry and fear, but keeping in mind with proper precautions, I return to my family daily. I can see if children were definite carriers and risking lives 100% for the teachers and others they encounter, but the CDC numbers do not support this fear. If proper precautions, parentheses, hand washing, sanitizing, face masks, distancing, end parentheses, were enforced, I do not see where this fear of returning to school is justified. Our children are living proof that they can follow precautions. They wear masks and wash their hands. We have ingrained this into their daily routine for months. The long-term effect of not having school is going to affect our children for years. School is a brick and mortar building with guidance of a trained professional teacher, and it cannot be replaced with haphazard Google Classroom and an hour a day activity online. If you go online 100%, I suggest teachers get online as if they were having class. I expect lessons as if my daughter were in class, meaning the teacher is online and present for 8 hours a day, teaching lessons in person, for concepts to be explained and questions to be posed and answered as if they were in class. We as parents cannot work jobs and come home and teach concepts that need a professional teacher to explain. I don't know, Joe or John, I don't know if you have any
I can jump in
response or
there.
comment on that. Okay.
I'm hopeful that we don't have to get to an online school, but I think it's inevitable. So that's our number one plan. And I will tell our residents this: March, April, and May, remote learning will not be the same this school year. It's going to look a lot different. Some of those recommendations that were just spoken there, what we're going to have in place as far as following a traditional school day. So it's definitely going to look different, but we need to plan for it. I really believe at some point that is a real possibility. So that's plan number one for us right now.
Okay. Maureen Walsh, 1473 Turnberry Drive, Canfield. I would like to be assured that the school is following the CDC guidelines, especially given the spread that Ohio is now facing. Desks spaced out, gatherings canceled, meals in classrooms, staggered arrival and dismissal. Limit non-essential visitors. I would also like mandatory mask on students and teachers unless there's a medical reason that prohibits same. Physical barriers at teachers' desks to protect them. She puts parentheses, plastic shields. Notification to families if anyone has tested positive. Extra attention to cleaning areas of common use in buses. Plastic shield guard for the drivers of the buses to help protect them. I work in juvenile court. Masks are mandatory for anyone in building unless they are in a personal office with a door. Machines are used for temperature checks at all entrance doors. It is a quick process and is a walkthrough. Plastic shields are easy to install and do not create a distraction between the judge, witnesses, or people. It is an easy way to help with safety. Sports, if permitted, should require a negative check prior to being permitted to play. Mask and hand washing are also needed. The science on mask is well documented. There is no reason not to require masks when indoor. The risk of spread when indoors in a crowded area is also well documented. There is a risk not only to the student and teachers, but also the community at large. Masks and hand washing are two very simple ways to contain the spread. If masks are not required, I would like an explanation as to why the science is not being followed.
Stay tuned. We're going to lay it out.
Victoria Calder, 145 Willow Bend Drive, Canfield. I guess this one's a question, so we may defer this one till later. Is there a protocol in place for if a student and or teacher test positive? Does this lead to an immediate quarantine of every student and teacher that came in contact with? So that's one we'll hit. That's kind of a repeat of the earlier one. Jared Bunovich, 1150 Fox Den Trail, Canfield. Please consider fully opening the schools. Our children need an education in some form of normalcy. I'm a physician in the communities and I have been at work every day this year. We can do so safely. For this parents, I think he meant to say for these parents who can and wish the online school is available, but for those of us who wish for our children to have some form of normalcy and education, school is required. Keeping the kids at home is a false sense of security in an infectious disease pandemic. The spread could come from anywhere and containment is clearly no longer a possibility. Mask, social distancing, and hand washing can help and treats this with science rather than fear is the best way to move forward. Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Bort, she didn't put a first name. Southview Road, Canfield. These are questions, so we may defer. How will elementary ages have recess, still have gym, music, art, mask required for students? Thank you. So each one of those were a question. We'll hit those up. So to use Joe's term, stay tuned. Steph Kelly, 7760 Briarwood Court, Canfield. Regarding the Digital Academy, can you give a brief description of the Digital Academy? Will the teachers be Canfield staff? Will the content be original and aligned to the coursework of the in-person school? So I assume we'll hit that one. Hannah Berkey, Edwards Avenue, Canfield. If a home situation changes where the student begins the school year in the online setting, would the student be able to transition into a classroom setting? I asked this because you said online/classroom is an either or option. And that's one we're going to cover, correct?
Yep.
Steph Kelly's asking why we're reading people's addresses, because it's legally required. We do that in board meetings as well. Melissa Russo, 409 Millbrook Street, Canfield. What does the doctors group think about mandating masks? My daughter has asthma and I'm concerned about having to wear a mask every day. So I think that one is baked in there somewhere, Joe and John, I think. So we'll catch that one after or throughout the presentation part. Sarah Ashraf, 3725 Tippecanoe Place. If we go back to school in a traditional way, will we be using bus? What will the seating arrangement on the bus? What will be the seating arrangement on the bus will look like? And we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so that's all the comments. Patty, did you have any?
Yes, I forwarded one to you.
Okay. Stand by here a second. My email cooperates. This one is for, so this is going back to the public input issue on reemployment of Stacy Madison. So Robert Fay, 22 Pinecone Drive, writes, as a father of 3 students in CHS last year, with 2 of my children having had Mr. Madison in class, I strongly oppose his rehire. It was evident pre and during COVID that his style and theories on teaching students are not in his best interest, are not in their best interest. My wife has also provided feedback on his preparation and approach, along with his frequent act of, quote, making fun of students, end quote, and creating an environment that does not promote questioning by students. My daughter also provided detailed feedback directly to him on this matter. By the way, both of my children are AB students who take their education seriously. So that's related to the public input side of reemployment of Mr. Madison. And George says another one popped up. I don't know if that happened after. Okay, we do have one more from 2 more now. From B. Shapona, Briarfield Court, Canfield. Masks for kids K through 3, is that parents' choice? I don't mind if a child wears it common places like bathroom or hallway, but I do have a concern in a classroom all day with a face covering. Also, outside recess should stay. Please keep school enjoyable and fun as well. Another comment from Anthony Hudak, 590 Blueberry Hill Drive, Canfield. As to teachers to accept the school's early retirement incentive, why should we pay them a supplement their retirement pay? Why? Let me say that again. So, as to teachers to accept the school's early retirement incentive, why should we pay them, a supplement their retirement pay? I'm not exactly sure.
I'm wondering if that's an inference that they get both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into all that, but
Yeah, no.
the retire rehire situation, we put out a retire rehire situation or a retirement incentive to retire, essentially for two reasons. One, to help our older teachers that have been in the district a long time with their concern about teaching in a COVID environment, and two, because we were cut $600,000, and anytime we do a retirement rehire or a retirement incentive, it saves quite a bit of money for the district. So that is why we did that. And Dan Kapalko from 330 Montridge says Mr. Tullio's microphone is now very clear. So I guess that's good.
I thought it was
All right.
just me, so thank you, Dan, because that's good.
I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
It's a little bit quiet, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and it says my bandwidth is low. I think that's because I'm streaming, I would bet. So maybe
I have
will...
one more.
Okay. Are any of the other board members watching YouTube? So in case there's comments, because I'm going to pause my YouTube because I see that my my stream is low, and I'm sure it's because I'm streaming the.
Where would I see it on YouTube if somebody was commenting?
Well, there's just those comments. I want to make sure, because there are some comments in there. Yeah, so we do have a comment there. Okay, and so Anthony Hudak has clarified. I meant to say I do not like any teacher. I do not think any teacher should be double dipping. Okay, I mean that's a whole. I think if you want to have that conversation to understand the whole finances behind that, that would probably be a call for Ms. Prince offline, because there's a lot to how the finances of all that works. Heidi Davis, and by the way, the comments are still coming in even though I have it paused, so I think I'm okay on YouTube. Heidi Davis, 67 Jeanette Drive. It's Boardman, but her kids are in Canfield. Says, I would like to know what the LGBTQ learning agenda will be, if anything. If this is a high school topic, are we able to remove our children from class for religious beliefs? That is a Joe question, I would think.
Yeah, that's a good conversation with our attorney, to be honest with you, to get some good guidance on that.
Yeah, so Heidi, I would recommend that you call Joe. I mean, I'm not aware of any specific change in content. Is that a correct statement, John?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think we don't have any particular change in content, in curriculum content, but that would be something I think to call Mr.
Yeah,
Knoll
if there's
about.
a specific concern, we'd like to hear that, definitely.
Yeah.
Dave, did you get that email from
Yep, I got it.
Susan? Okay.
Yep. Comment from Susan Robbie. She didn't put her address, which we should have, but I do know her, so I know she's a Canfield parent. She says, we did not, it says but I think she means not. We did not receive a full refund for Disney. It's clearly stated we were to receive 100% as we have an emergency, and for myself, over $400 has yet to be refunded. It was stated a little over $250 was kept for fees. We never went, and it's actually over $400 for myself that has not been returned. John, you want to take that one?
Sure. They really have to, she's referring to the band trip, correct?
Yep, that's the band trip.
Right. No, she really has to get in touch with Mr. Kelly, and he can direct her. right to the company. Unfortunately, or the company's more than willing to talk to any resident and explain to them the situation and how things were set up. So, but I would talk to Mr. Kelly. And
I'm having trouble hearing you, John.
is this better or here?
And get closer.
Yeah,
Closer,
closer
yeah.
is better.
Okay. She really needs to talk to Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Kelly can get her in direct contact with the company. And the owner of the company is more than willing to speak to any parent about the trip and the refund policy and procedures. There was a clause there. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone took part in it, but there was a guarantee, not a guarantee, but if something happened and they weren't able to go, they could get a partial refund. And I don't think any of the parents took advantage of that when I spoke to the owner of the company.
And I'll just make one comment, Dave and John, just because I had a child that was in 8th grade that was supposed to go to DC, and I paid 100% of the cost for him in anticipation of him attending the trip, and his refund was at 73%. And the justification for that from the vendor that we used was there was planning that was required, and so they'd already done some upfront costs. So as much as I wasn't happy with the fact that I only got 73% back, I understood the logic and the rationale, not necessarily that I agreed with it completely, but so I think it was unprecedented for everybody in regards to what they were facing. So I don't know if that's the same thing that would apply for the Disney trip, but I'm going to guess that if you talk to the company, they're going to apply the same logic and rationale as to their approach.
Yeah.
And that's all the same company, correct?
I don't know. Do they use the same company?
It's that Premier Travel, correct?
Oh, yeah. Okay, then yeah, that would.
Travel.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the school has gotten involved as much as they can to try and get people's money back. I mean, my only comment on all this is I would hope we never use that company again. I feel bad for them. I'm sorry that they got stuck, but you know, my observation is that those monies were not, it was not fair how that was done. It's not fair to take more money from a parent who paid 100% versus 50%. And I know John has talked to them and Mr. Rubin, and so I know that work has been done, but I don't think it was handled well. And you know, I'm a business guy. I completely understand where the gentleman's coming from, but I just don't think they handled it well. So
I don't think he'll be in business next year, but it's.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. We have more comments. Yeah, I saw those, George. We have more comments. And these we are returning back to the public input section. We have a comment from Dan Capalco, 330 Montridge, Canfield. I strongly agree with Mr. Madison's rehire. Both of my older children had Mr. Madison and found his course to be challenging, and Mr. Madison is very supportive. My daughter has gone on to receive her master's, and my son is a junior at OU. This is a direct correlation with Canfield teachers. I can only hope that Mr. Madison works 7 more years so my younger child can take his class. Lastly, thank you for everything you have done for Canfield schools. And Courtney, who did not put her last name in there. She lives on Turnberry Drive in Canfield. I had Mr. Madison as a teacher for pre-calculus and trigonometry during my time at CHS. Although this was in 2006, 2007, I still look back and can acknowledge that every experience I had in his classroom was positive. It was evident that he was dedicated to his students through his classwork, through his in-class work, willingness to meet with students before school to provide additional help, and thoroughness with feedback to homework and tests. His grading system was fair and his instruction clear. I am fortunate to have many exceptional math teachers during my schooling in Canfield, and Mr. Madison was one of them. Danielle Maroney, Jameson Drive, Court, I think it is, Canfield. Hello, I am a mental health nurse practitioner. I treat children, adolescents, and adult parents or adult patients in a private practice office within the community. Since March, I have definitely seen an increase in depressive and anxious symptoms among my patients. I have also been witness to an increase in not only new and existing outpatient appointments, there has also been an increase in hospital admissions due to suicidal thoughts and behavior changes amongst this population. The news is particularly fond of discussing statistics, which include number of COVID-19 cases, hospital admissions, ventilators used, and deaths. Without a doubt, we need to be carefully educated about this virus. However, we also need to be aware of the psychological aspects that also affect our community members, especially our youth. If school does not traditionally start in the classroom, my worry would be that for these children to continue down a slippery slope of isolation, lack of structure, neglect, and abuse. Not to mention the academic disservice that will play a part in their livelihoods with falling behind in school. Case in point, we need to look at the psychosocial, psychological, and developmental issues that can and already have been affected by keeping children at home, despite the risks of contracting COVID-19. Risk and benefits need to be assessed from not only medical, academic, and scientific data. The consequences to mental health needs to also play a part in this data. The community needs to be aware of what I see each day and every day behind closed doors. Our community's children asking to go back to school, our community's children asking to go back to school, wanting to be on a sports team or sing in the choir, wanting to be with their peers and teachers that give them structure and a sense of normalcy. Okay. Anthony Hudak has one more comment. We have 2 children with IEPs and would like to say that John Vito should be commended on how he has handled the students with IEPs during these trying times. And Courtney Cruz says she can't hear. I think she's referring to John, but maybe if she could let us know. I know John's going to try and keep close to that mic. Okay, Patty, anything else? Any other comments?
No.
Okay, and we don't have any more, so we will move on. Again, from here forward, if you want to post questions, go ahead and do that. We're not going to consider those necessarily comments. We may not, we aren't required to read your name and address in that sort of a setting. So if you want to put your questions in there, like I said, some of those we may end up deferring, but we'll do our best here as we move forward. We do have, go ahead.
Just for my own knowledge, or even Patty, so the public input portion on the 2 rehires, is that just public input and then we move, there's nothing, no action from a board perspective beyond that?
Correct. Action will take place later at a different board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at the next board meeting. I think there's a legal requirement that you have to have a hearing in advance.
Okay.
And somebody just texted me, it's hard to hear John. So let's just, if John will stay close to the mic and hopefully that improves the situation. We had to use Zoom and it was 2.5 hours of my life is why, so I won't go into why that is, but we're doing things a little bit different. So we've got a little bit of different tech going here. Okay, so we do have some business that we've got to go through. Again, this is a regular board meeting. So we're gonna do that. And then we will, once we get through all that, we will go into the proposal and going through that. So you're gonna have to put up with that for a little bit and learn something about the district at the same time. So that's a good thing.
Okay, moving on to new business then. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can.
Under personnel, reassign, transfer. This is for your information. Licensed staff, Patricia Laree from our CVS guidance counselor to the elementary guidance counselor position, effective the 2020-21 school year. Along with Mrs. Laree, we have Tom Scourge. I transferred up, who was the CVMS music teacher, to Canfield High School music teacher position, effective the 2020-2021 school year. And that is just for your information. We don't have to vote on that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Moving on to new business, under personnel, we'd like to hire, and this is your exhibit 1A, Brady Clark as a CVMS 6th grade language arts teacher, effective the 2020-2021 school year, as presented.
Okay, and there's some sort of oh, I guess there's not. Okay, never mind. Okay, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the hiring of Brady Clark as shown on Exhibit 1A for 6th grade language arts teacher?
Campbell motions to approve the hiring of Brady Clark, CVMS 6th grade language arts teacher in Exhibit 1A for the 2020-2021 school year.
That way will second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Capua,
yes,
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, Lisa Rapp, CH Camel Elementary tutor, and that's your exhibit 1B.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the hiring of Lisa Rapp as CH Campbell Elementary tutor as listed in exhibit number 1B?
Campbell makes the motion to hire Lisa Rapp, CH Campbell Elementary tutor in Exhibit 1B for the 2020-2021 school year.
Any discussion of that? Roll call, please.
Can I just make a comment? That'll be at the rate in the negotiated agreement, the tutor salary schedule. It's not on the agenda, so.
Okay.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Capua,
yes,
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Jennifer Turnbull, Hilltop Elementary tutor, exhibit 1C.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve hiring Jennifer Trimble for Hilltop Elementary tutor as shown in exhibit number 1C?
Cap also moves Jennifer Trimble for Hilltop Elementary tutor as shown in Exhibit 1C.
Campbell seconds.
Any discussion? By the way, I don't. Did we mention both of those are funded with the CARES grant? Lisa Rapp and Jennifer Trimble. Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes,
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Item C, extended time for the 21 school year. Stephanie Rourke, the guidance counselor, 10 days. We hired Stephanie last time, but we did not include the extended time in her contract as a high school counselor.
Right. Based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the extended time for Stephanie Ruark, our new guidance counselor at the high school?
That would make the motion to hire Stephanie Rourke for the extended time as listed.
Capua seconds.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Did we lose Pat?
I think she froze.
Mr. Atway,
There we go.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes. Did John freeze? Oh, we got, okay. We lost your video, John.
That's all right. Maybe the volume, we're trying to work on the volume here, but hiring
fine.
extracurricular, that's your exhibit 2.
And I got to say, John, you lost at least 10 years when
Right.
you when your video went off. So
Hey, trust me. I
Looking
do it
good.
Every day too. Once on evenings like this.
can I have a motion to approve the hiring and the extracurricular list on exhibit number 2, please?
Campbell motions for the approval of hiring extracurricular in exhibit number 2 for the 2020-2021 school year.
Capua seconds.
Any discussion? John, if my picture came up, I'd have all my hair back because, 5.5 years ago, I had a full head of hair. Or 4.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago.
There you go.
That might
Mhm.
scare me. I don't know. See all that hair?
Mhm.
Okay, let's move.
Wait. We gotta have a roll call. Sorry.
But
Mr.
can I have
Atwood?
can I have a
Oh.
question on
Yes.
that extracurricular?
Yeah.
All right. So say we're in the same situation as we were this year in the spring, and sports don't get played. Is there, how do we determine if extracurricular, gets paid, or is there a certain percentage of how we pay those coaches if say a season is either canceled or they shut down for a brief time?
Mhm.
We had legal counsel write in their contracts concerning that situation, and that it would be prorated at that time based on how much of the season has, progressed.
Good. Okay.
So there won't be any surprises for them, that's a great
So
point, Matt.
it's
Okay.
written right in their contract.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, so they know. Yeah, I was just curious because, obviously I'm sure some, take that money into account for what they make for the year. And,
Sure.
I know things we can't control, the uncontrollable, but at least they would be aware. All right. Thanks, Patty.
Yep.
Good question.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Okay, the board needs to appoint a delegate and alternate to the OSBA annual business meeting to be held on November 8th, 2020.
Yeah, and we have a long-standing policy that the newest members of the board will stand up and volunteer for those positions. So we wouldn't want to break. We wouldn't want to break that.
I'm a team
I was
player.
going to ask that question.
Give it to me. I'm a team player. I'll take
Oh,
it.
yes. Thank you, Matt.
Mr.
There
Campbell.
you go.
Well, you need an alternate too, so it's actually
Okay, well,
2.
I have no idea what it entails, but let me know.
It's a
It means
lot
we
of
had a
fun.
meeting. I just did that virtual training this past weekend, so I was going to ask the question as to who our delegate was. So for that reason, I'll volunteer to be the alternate and let Matt be the go-to.
Nice.
Don't give me an excuse that you have a baseball game and there's going to be a conflict and you're going to send me in the end.
Oh, what's the date? I think baseball season's over in November, isn't it?
Yeah,
Over
November. Well, we don't know what's over and what isn't over. So,
Right. All right.
and we don't know if this is going to be a live conference or a virtual conference either. I know I just got a survey about that. I don't know. You guys probably all did about the Capitol conference. So I don't think we know for sure what's going on there. But okay. on to the grant program applications for fiscal year 21.
Right. Patty?
Those are yours, Patty.
They are, okay. Just approval, Mr. Vito takes care of the details in the CCIP for all of those grants. They've all been written, we're waiting for approval. Those are the dollar amounts, and you'll notice the
Uh-oh,
And she froze again.
we lost you, Patty.
different one.
Oh, there
we-
she is.
oh,
You froze
sorry.
for Patty.
We lost you after you said,
Okay,
you'll
I'm back.
notice.
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection was giving me trouble there. So did you hear the part about the ESSER is the new one this year? That's the CARES Act money. And we also are receiving an additional 26,000. So we just got notice of yesterday. And we don't know how that money's coming yet. So there might be an addendum to this, but the 164,000 we are using, that is to hire those 2 tutors above. Also, we're using it to buy sanitizing equipment and some other maybe desk partitions and so forth to help with bringing the kids back. So any questions on any of those other grants? They're all pretty much about the same amount of money as the previous year.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion to approve the grants as outlined for fiscal year 21.
Capua seconds.
Any further comments on that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yeah.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Okay, approve the bus stops as per attached. That's your exhibit number 3, and these are subject to change. These bus stops are the same as last year. The bus garage has been working extremely hard to try to streamline our transportation department. And unless we get more information, or as soon as we get more information about our students, we may have to adjust those stops. Okay?
Okay, based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the bus stop list? And that is obviously subject to change. In fact, I would say it likely will change, but
DeCapua will make the motion to approve the bus stops per attached for the 2021 school year, subject to change.
Campbell second.
any further discussion there?
Just one more time. So from a clarity perspective, John, you said these are the same as last year.
Yeah,
And so nothing has changed, at least from last year to
right.
these bus stops.
At this time. The only change so far that we've encountered, one bus, we've taken a few students off it and put them on another bus just to balance out the riders per bus. But the stops are the same.
Are we? I mean, this might be too early to get into, but I mean, Joe and John, if I know one of the things we've discussed, and I think that you'll probably mention either today or at that parent forum, is encouraging parents to drive their kids. If there are significant changes to kind of who signed up to be bused, are we going to then adjust those routes based on that, or will we just run those routes no matter what?
Yeah, it's a good question, John. I've been talking a lot about that. You know, the fear is if you change them and then parents change their mind or can't drive their kid that day, you kind of get yourself in more of a predicament. But we are going to ask our parents to help us. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I think that's going to be an interesting challenge for our transportation coordinator to take a look at who these people are and is it worth making a change or not.
Yeah. And legally, are we legally able to ask parents to sort of opt out to us, or because I know there's a lot of legalities around providing transport that we're required to provide transport, but if they tell us they're opting out, is there precedence for that?
I don't know if there's precedence, but our attorney did have that conversation with us at the county that is an option that, we're allowed to do and parents can say, but I think the flip side of that is if parent says, hey, I want my kid to get back on transportation, we've got to be prepared. So that kind of goes back to your original question.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's basically what we're saying is there's a question mark next to all of that as it plays out. Okay. Did we vote? I don't think we did, right? Okay. Patty, roll call.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes.
Next item is to approve the out-of-state overnight field trips. We have the girls tennis team and the girls golf team as presented.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the out-of-state overnight field trip for girls tennis and girls golf?
Campbell makes the motion to approve the out-of-state overnight field trip for the girls tennis team traveling to Columbus, August 14th through the 15th, 2020, as well as the girls golf team that traveled to the Tam O'Shanter Golf Course in PA, September 1st, 2020.
Capua seconds.
So there's kind of an elephant in the room here. How does this specifically girls tennis team, which is an overnighter, fit into our kind of overall plan here for this?
Or
Mr.
how does
Cochran.
any overnighter fit into this?
Yeah, Mr. Cochran and I are going to take a real good hard look at this as his dates get close. I'm sure this is probably something that we've done in the past, but I just think with what's going on right now, we've got to be extremely careful and cautious before we actually green light that. But I'm sure the policy says the board has to approve the trip if it is going to happen. So I appreciate you doing that tonight, but we're gonna take a good hard look at it before we actually
we can approve with contingency, correct?
I was gonna,
Yeah,
that's a good question.
I was just going to suggest that we might want to change what we're approving here, because I know, I mean, just as an example, I don't want to pick at a sore subject, because my son is on the cross country team, and we canceled their the administration canceled their overnighter. But had they not, New York just announced a 2-week quarantine. So even if we had not called it, it would have been off as of 2 days ago because of that. So I mean, my recommendation, and I guess I'll make the motion that we kind of adjust this to say the board approves it pending a final green light from our superintendent, Mr. Knoll, and from our athletic director right up until that last day before this is to go.
Perfect.
Because you know, I think you know, I have a big, huge question mark next to specifically the overnight one. The golf team, we're approving that because it's in Pennsylvania, but it's not a whole lot different than just going to a local course. So
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yep.
so I have a motion on the floor to amend this to include that we're approving it tentatively. The board approves it tentatively, pending the green light by Mr. Knoll and Mr. Cochran on say August 13th. I would say it's got to go right down to that day.
Yeah, definitely.
And everybody
Mr.
needs to be
Capua
prepared.
seconds.
I think our parents really need to be prepared that may not happen, and prepare our students, because I know that they definitely want to go. And I've heard about like I said, the cross country trip here in my own household, so I know how that goes.
So are you making that motion, or do you need me to amend Matt's original?
I made the motion to amend it. Tracy seconded
Seconded.
the amendment. So now we are voting on the amended motion on the table. Unless there's more comment. Any more comment? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes. Okay, John, back
We
to
have the
you.
girls golf team going. Is that for both?
I would say we might as well just allow for both. I mean, like I said, I mean, my opinion is that the golf thing is almost like a completely separate issue. You know, we wouldn't even, this wouldn't even be on our plate if this were, you know, Avalon instead of Tam O'Shanter. So I think it's more of a formality that it's even on our plate. The one that I'm concerned about is that overnight trip to Columbus, especially because of the, well, I mean, there's all kinds of things that have me concerned there. So
Definitely.
Okay. Then we'll move on. Adopt resolution 01-2021 to proceed with the renewal of the $890,000 emergency levy. And that's your Exhibit 5.
based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve resolution 01-2021, which is to proceed with putting the renewal of our emergency levy on the ballot?
That way we'll make the motion to adopt resolution of 01-2021, which allows us to proceed with the renewal of the emergency levy.
Campbell seconds.
And just real quick, because you know, we have a lot of people watching and listening. Patty, could you just, we went over this last meeting, but if you could just reiterate how far back that levy goes. Oh, she froze.
Mayor's office certify the millage.
Hang on, Patty, you were completely frozen out for most of that, so you got to start again.
Okay. We sent the paperwork to the auditor's office to, I'm freezing again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Keep going.
So they determined the assessed valuation, which is 632 million, and the approximate millage to generate that 890,000, which is 1.4 mils based on our current valuation. This levy, though, goes clear back to May of '86 when it was adopted for 6.5 mils. I know it says for emergency purposes, that's how the ballot language was worded back in '86, and that's how you have to renew it. But certainly, we don't want to do without $890,000 of revenue each year. So asking for that to be renewed.
Yeah, and so it's just a renewal. It doesn't change anyone's taxes. It's exactly the same as the way it is. So. Any other comments, discussion about that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yeah.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes. John?
Okay, it brings us up to the item number 7, ratify the professional negotiated agreement between the Campfield Board of Education and the Campfield Education Association from September 1, 2020 to August 31st, 2022, as presented.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent, can I have a motion to approve the new agreement between the Board of Education and the CEA effective September 1, 2020 through August 31, 2022?
Capua will make the motion to ratify the negotiation agreement between the Canfield Board of Ed and the CEA for September 2020 through August 2022.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Do we got a second it or no?
Oh, yeah, a second.
Yep,
Sorry.
Campbell second it. And can I say, can I just give a shout out to Mr. Knoll and Mr. Tullio and Patty for all their hard work and working on that with the CA.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Conley and the CEA. I mean, negotiations, as you guys know, can be a tough scenario, but I was extremely impressed with the professionalism by he and his group in order to get that agreement done, so we can get down to how to start school. So greatly appreciated from our perspective.
Absolutely. And it's good to have that off our plate for sure.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Atway,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. DeCapua,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Knoll, it's over to you, right? I mean, we're
Okay. Can you guys see the screen? All right.
Yep. And
All right.
and what we're going to do is just a reminder for everybody. If you want to put your questions in there, we're just going to kind of go through all this, and then I'll see where we're at with questions, see what we may or may not have answered, and we'll try and get through as much of that as possible. So
Perfect. All right. Well, good evening, Canfield. I know this has been a long time coming, and we're happy to present our draft restart plan to you. I just want to thank our administrative team. These guys have been working for months under Mr. Tullio's leadership. There's been a ton of time and effort put in. I just kind of come in here recently to be involved with the conversations, but I know there's been DLT meetings, building level committee meetings. John and I go to superintendent meetings to hear kind of what's going on out there. So I want to applaud everybody's effort, and I'm just extremely grateful for where we're at tonight. So like I said, this is a draft plan. It could change tomorrow, but we want to go ahead and lay this out to you just to kind of get the ball rolling. So our main goal is always the safety and well-being of our students and staff. That's our number one priority. All our decisions are going to be encompassed around that philosophy. We are trying to work with an in-person education as best we can and still use caution as we move forward with our teaching and learning. We're going to identify the protocols, procedures, all the expectations that we can to make sure that we do this education piece in a safe way with an on-campus learning, an in-person, and a virtual learning, which is the online piece that we'll talk more about. So kind of how did we get here? We have some good guiding documents, to be honest with you. The CDC document's been very helpful. I'll speak a little bit specifically to that here in a minute. The COVID-19 health and prevention guidance and the planning guide for Ohio schools has come down from ODE and ODH, and the governor has kind of put those out in front of us. Those are our guidelines as far as how we get school back up and running. And then also the American Academy Pediatrics, and there's been some good documentation there. I know this is probably hard to read, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. The CDC information says this: we are to follow all local health department orders. And I've said this before, the local health department is going to be our best friend. I mean, they are going to guide us. They're going to lead us and help in our decision-making. We have to be able to screen for symptoms as well. We need to provide training on hygiene for our staff and our students. It's that hand washing piece. So we're going to spend a lot of time on that. We have to know the signs and symptoms of COVID, and you have to stay home if you're sick. The perfect attendance certificate will not be used this year. And I know a lot of us take a lot of pride in that and come to work maybe if we're sick, but this year needs to be a little different. And once again, we're going to consult with our local health department through the entire way. These are the two documents that have come down from the ODE, ODH, and the governor. 5 basic prevention strategies that you can see there. I won't bother reading them, but all of those are part of our restart plan moving forward. So kind of how did we get to all this? There was a survey sent home back in June for our students, parents, and staff. The administrative team looked at that survey, started putting some things together. We met earlier in the week with a group of area physicians, which was an awesome experience to hear professionals in the field. The board tonight's going to hear it and be able to provide some feedback for some refining and tweaking. We're also going to send it back to our building committees, but they have our teachers and some parents in the community to do the same. We are going to unleash a community survey starting tomorrow. So folks listening, you can read it online and you can also complete the survey. And our hope is to have a final plan out to be released in early August once we get all those pieces and parts together. Okay, so here we go. Elementary and middle school. Our students will attend at 100% capacity in our buildings. Monday through Friday, the goal is to keep that social distance of 6 feet, but we know at times that's going to be hard to maintain. So we're going to at least try to keep that 3 feet of distance. Our K-4 grade students are going to remain in classrooms and teachers are going to rotate to them. This is one of the important strategies in all of our documents. If we can keep that cohort together so they're not mingling with other kids, if there is an issue, it's going to help us to be able to identify them. So that's a huge plus for us. Our 5th to 8th grade students are going to change classes at different times. So they're going to still try to stay together. And we're going to use classrooms in some bigger common spaces. Now you're talking like gyms, cafeterias, maybe some of those outside of the norm areas that we're going to have to use for classrooms so we can try to keep that distance as best as possible. Here's the transportation piece. Our elementary and middle school kids are going to be permitted to ride the bus. But as was commented earlier, we are going to ask for your help as parents. The bus situation concerns me, to be very honest with you. Having a lot of kids on the bus, it's going to be difficult to social distance them. But if Miles and Paws are willing to drive their kids to school, it's going to be a huge help for us. Just about the bus a little bit, we are going to, when kids enter, they're going to go all the way to the back, and we'll fill the bus from back to front, so we're not walking by one another. Family members, we're going to have you guys sit together for sure. If we have to go to a seat in other scenarios, we will as well. And I guess I'll just say it right now. Face coverings are mandatory on the bus. Okay, and I'll say that again. But face coverings are mandatory for all bus riders. Our lunches might look a little different. We're going to try to use the cafeteria as best we can and social distance in there. We're going to have some situations where we will eat in classrooms, and I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. We'll be able to handle that as well. And because of the evidence that shows there's a slowdown in the spread of COVID-19, we are going to require face coverings. And here's what it looks like for K-8. We're going to require our kindergartens through 8th grade students to have your face coverings on the buses while you're walking in hallways and common areas and in the classroom with teacher-directed breaks. So basically what that means is the teacher can decide, I've got all my kids and they're sitting down in front of me, and here's an opportunity we can take our masks off for a little bit. We are going to give those K-8 teachers that ability to do that. Now, with all that being said, if you have a kiddo that has a health issue or some type of developmental reason why you can't wear that face mask, we are going to deal with that as well. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear for our community. We're going to do everything we can to make accommodations, to follow the safety precautions. We're going to be cleaning and sanitizing, changing student schedules as best we can, using all the safety precautions that Mr. Tullio and I have at our fingertips. We want to implement for our staff and students. Parents, we got another big ask for you. Okay, so I'll make sure I speak to this. We are going to ask our parents to assess your kids every day for a temperature above 100 degrees, and also look for the symptoms of what COVID looks like as well. And if that is the case, we need you to keep your kids at home for us. Okay, so we're going to ask you to be the first line of defense for our kids before they come to school. Okay, let's move on to high school. We're going to come in at 100% capacity as well. This is the all-in plan, to be honest with you. Students are going to come Monday through Friday. The goal, once again, is 6 feet. We know we're going to have some trouble at the high school. So we're going to really work hard on that 3 feet of distance. Once again, at the high school, we're going to be using some spaces that maybe haven't been used before for day-to-day instruction. Cafeteria, auditoriums, media centers. We're going to have to be creative, and we're going to give our high school administration the go-ahead to do that. Once again, high school kids, you can ride the bus, lunches in the cafeteria as best we can. Might be some other scenarios where we'll have to use some other venues to do that. Face coverings, again, required for all 9th through 12th grade while on the buses and while in the building in the high school. So a little different situation for our high school kids, okay, as far as what the face coverings are going to look like. Once again, parents, if your child has some type of health issue or developmental reason why that's not the case, we will be working with you with doctor notes to get that handled. Once again, we're going to do the best we can as far as cleaning and sanitizing, using all the best practices we can in that world. And parents, we're going to ask you again, high school as well, please assess your kids before they leave. Look at that temperature above 100. And if your kids have any of those symptoms that come under that COVID, we're going to ask you to keep them at home. All right, so that's the #1 plan moving forward for Canfield in the fall. If you say, you know what, Mr. Knoll, welcome to Canfield, but that plan's not for me, that's okay. Okay, we're going to give you choices. And I know we talked about this in the past, and this Cardinal Digital Academy, I'm really excited about rolling this out. I want to thank Mr. Tullio and Mr. Maroney for accepting the challenge here. I gave them 2 months to get this done, and they're working hard. But if you don't like the all-in philosophy as parents, this Cardinal Digital Academy is a second option for you day one. Your students will attend 100% online, and that's something you can choose. However, if we move forward and we have a class where we have an issue possibly, or maybe a building that has COVID, or the entire district, this is another tool in our toolkit that we can go back to if we need to use it. I'll be honest, parents, I don't think it's if we have to go to an online world. I just think it's going to be when. I'm hoping and praying we can do all the things that we've outlined tonight and kick that can down the road so we can go to school as long as possible. But honestly, we need to be prepared for this online learning, and our teachers will be. And like I said, it will look different than it did back in the spring. So this is for K-12. High school online courses are going to be flexible. Elementary, middle school, we're going to be using those by pace and scope and sequence. Elementary students, this online learning is a little tougher, as our parents know. So we're going to rely on parents or another responsible adult to kind of give them some support at home. Not all the district courses are offered online, specifically at the high school. And our special ed services may need to be adjusted based on IEPs and what those needs are. We are going to put a Google form out on the website, because if this is something you're interested in at all as parents, we want to get some information to you and let you know that we're going to have a virtual meeting very similar to this on July 28th at 6 p.m. There's no commitment. It's just you can come on, listen to the conversation. Hopefully we'll be able to answer some more questions you might have. And then if you say, you know what, this sounds like it's for me, we're going to have a in-person meeting on August 11th at 6 p.m. at the high school. And there'll be more information coming out on that as well. And I know there was a question about if I start in the digital academy, how long will I have to stay in the academy? Mr. Toole and I have talked about that, and I think we're leaning towards a semester. I just think that's probably the best time to do that as far as the transition goes. I'll be interested in some feedback from the community, but I know John and I have kind of come to that place that we think that's a good timing as far as curriculum wise. So, okay, so for our staff, as you know, the governor has mandated that face coverings are required for all of our staff members. We're going to ask our teachers to do the same thing. All of our staff members that above 100 temperature or any other of the causes that look like COVID, we're going to need them to stay home. We're going to work real hard with our staff in PD over this summer and the beginning of the school year. As far as healthy hygiene, we got to be able to teach that to our kids. And just for the sake of our parents, we are going to one basic platform for next year, and it's going to be Google Meet and Google Classroom. I heard the same thing here at my district that I've heard in Canfield. We had way too many irons in the fire, too many places to go. We're going to try to just make it short, sweet, and easy. We're going to do the Google Meet, Google Classroom. We're going to give our teachers help if they need it with some PD. We're going to use Remind as well. I've been told that's been a great communication piece here in Canfield, and we'll continue. Obviously, we're going to educate everybody about the Cardinal Digital Academy, and Safe Schools is another professional development tool that the district has as well for our staff members to take part of. For our students, we're going to work real hard, folks, to not share supplies. I know this is going to be difficult, but we're going to work hard. We're going to try to have one-way hall traffic when possible, so we don't have a lot of kids passing one another. We're going to have the required face mask like we talked about. We're going to work hard on cleaning our surfaces, hand sanitizing. We are going to eliminate field trips, okay, going into the school year. No large group events either. And we're going to look at no lockers as well as we try to eliminate times and places where kids can congregate. That's our plan as we stand here right now. Health and safety, we're going to be working hard with our school nurses for protective equipment and our staff. We're going to have isolation and quarantine rooms in each building. So if a kid gets sick or isn't feeling well during the day, we're going to have a place where he or she can come down to and work on good nursing areas where we have people spaced out. The facial coverings will still come into play. And like I said, we're going to rely on our local health department here big time to help us with the protocol. How many days do you have to stay out? Are you quarantined, et cetera? And that contact tracing piece as well. The health department is going to be very helpful as far as doing that. So school visitors, large gatherings, we're going to ask that there's no visitors or classroom volunteers this year as we get going. Parents and guardians can pick their kids up, but not enter the building. We're going to try to do a lot of conversations like this using Google Meet with parents to have conferences. We're going to look at canceling all of our assemblies, field trips, dances, and events for the time being, getting started here. That's a big recommendation from the CDC. And this athletic piece is very interesting. Mr. Cochran and I talked again last night as far as what this is going to look like. Here's the latest directive we were given. Each individual school will decide whether or not they will participate in fall sports. And that's a big ask, and I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that's the directive that we've been given thus far. So we will proceed under that understanding. Ms. Wilson, you read that question from one of our people in the community in the mental health world, and I so appreciate that. I've talked about this. You guys know this is near and dear to my heart. Studies and a lot of data show that schools are important for a child's well-being, development of social, emotional skills, and this whole mental health piece. I called it heartening in our schools. I'm excited to tell our community that our building leaders have already had some great discussions and conversation about what are we going to do the first couple of days of school. I know that some of our classes missed orientation days, like 4th to 5th grade. And John, if I misspeak, jump in here. 8th to 9th grade. So we're talking about what can we do with orientation days? What activities can we do? I think we all understand that until we ease the fear and the uneasiness with our kids, learning is not going to take place. So we're going to get all hands on deck to deal with this behavioral health issue. You can see some of the bullet points on there. But like I said, I'm excited to hear what's already being discussed. And I know our teachers and our building administrators are going to have a great plan when we get the school year started. So our vow, our promise to our community is to work hard in communication. We're going to do as best we can to use our tools that we have with the all call, emails, texting. I know your website's an awesome tool. You have a lot of people that go there. We're going to try to use that as well. We're going to do some virtual meetings. The Digital Academy one's coming up. We're talking about open house, possibly being in the digital world as well, being virtual. And I talked to you already about Google Classroom and Google Meet, but those are going to be our basic platforms with some other teacher-driven things added as well. But we're just going to try to bring all that together moving forward for the school year. So, and believe it or not, even with all this COVID, one good thing has been these types of things that you can do. I've realized this is a great way to communicate with people without going anywhere. And I think our teachers have realized that as well. So there hasn't been too many pluses about this whole thing, but that's been one. Okay, so final thing I have for you. As far as the presentation goes, we want to hear from you. Remember, this is just a draft. This is a working document. So I know I'm interested as the superintendent to be Mr. Tulio as well, and the board on what comments you have based on what you heard tonight. We're going to roll that out tomorrow on our website. I want to thank Ms. Renee for putting that together and getting that loaded on there. And then once again, we're going to try to put some pieces and parts together and have a final plan for Canfield in early August. So I know that's a lot and that was fast, but I hope from a 30,000 foot view, that gives you an idea about what we're looking for day one in Canfield. So board members, thoughts, questions?
Right.
Crazy
I just
Superintendent, you want me to go home? I mean, what?
No, Joe, this looks great, and I appreciate everything you guys have done and worked to put this together. Just from a point of clarity, because I know the questions are probably coming from the parent side, just to understand you, will this slide deck be posted with them to be able to go back and refer to it when they want to answer the survey? Because I'm assuming the survey is in reference to everything you've just identified. So I'm sure not everybody probably got to take the notes that they wanted or might forget.
Yeah, I've asked Miss English to post this presentation by tomorrow and the survey as well.
Okay.
So I think all the tools should be there for our people to review. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that knocked out a couple of the questions that we have.
Okay.
I want to just quickly say I've been in a lot of conversations the past few days. I mean, going back, but the past few days, especially even while I was sitting in the dentist's chair today, I had one of the employees ran in and asked me, some questions. And I just want to point out to everyone, no matter what we had decided, what we do decide going forward, we are not going to make everybody happy. I know that there are parents right now, yelling at their screen that we're going to require face coverings. And then there's other ones that are cheering that we're going to require face coverings. And there are people yelling that we're even offering online or in-person school, and some saying that we shouldn't be 5 days, and other ones cheering that. I mean, I can't think of a situation, and we've been in a few tricky situations since I've been on the board. I can't think of a situation that has so many kind of fractures here. I really, 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 really hope that parents, no matter how you feel about this, are supportive of the district and help us, throughout this process. This is really hard. And I gotta say, when I said it Monday when we met with the physicians group, this is probably the hardest set of decisions. This is not one decision. This is ongoing and will become a daily decision process that our administrators, teachers, school board, bus drivers, staff will ever make in their careers. So I hope that we see, I hope that we have a lot of grace shown by the community, no matter how you feel, positive or negative towards this. And we're hoping too that we give you at least livable or workable options. With the online school, which is definitely an online 2.0 version, we're hoping that you really, if you're concerned about this stuff, that you take advantage of that. And so I guess that's my soapbox. I'll get off of it now, but.
No, well said. I think it's a chance for the community to rally together, work together, and pull through, because we're going to need parents' help. All our staff members are going to be on deck, your administrative team. I mean, this is a true test of what coming together really is going to look like for Canfield and all school districts, really. So.
And I think to your point, Dave, it's easy to look at this plan and probably start to punch holes in it and say, what if this scenario and what if that scenario? So from a patient's perspective and understanding that this is a first pass of trying to build this plan and put it together, there are going to be things that aren't necessarily addressed here and that could be asked. And I think to your point, Joe, you guys are working on making sure you address every what if scenario possible, but we might miss one, and we're not going to be able to hit every what if scenario out there.
Oh, and like Mr. Knowles said, this is a living document. It will continue to change and evolve as we learn more and as we figure out what we're going to do. But it can also change at the drop of a hat. We can go to school with this, and the night before school, things could change. So we have to
Yeah.
be prepared.
Yeah. Mr. Tullio has a couple of things that we want to chat with you about too, some other safety precautions. John, do you want to jump in there?
Hey, you want to talk about the shields?
Mm-hmm.
Shields?
Yep.
Okay, I think I emailed each board member earlier today some information on desk shields. Something that we're looking at. We did want to have some input from you if you had an opportunity to look at that. What we do is at the K-8, we would purchase a shield for each student's desk. I think the two that you saw today were what they call the three-sided shields. There is a company out there that makes a two-sided. I did get a sample of that one particular shield, and after looking at it, we weren't very pleased with it. Hopefully I will get a three-sided from a different company tomorrow. They're supposed to drop one off, and I will have the administrators look at that shield. But they're expensive, but it's something that we have to take a look at if we want to go in that direction. The other area is the thermal check. It's a device that as the students walk through the door, it automatically takes temperatures of the students walking through. And two different companies. One of the companies, it was like $5,600 for one of the units. The other company was around $2,200 per unit. So there's going to be a demonstration at one of the other school districts in the area tomorrow, and I'm going to try to get over there and take a look at one tomorrow. But again, I did send that information out to you also. If you have any comments, concerns, please share them with us. We'd like to hear it.
I have a couple.
Mhm.
I mean, I think, well, where do I start? I mean, we've been inundated. My email is filled on a daily basis with people trying to sell stuff to us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really, really think that we need to be cognizant of the science. We need to be cognizant of the science that's in play here, and whether or not these things are science backed. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of science behind these shields, although, I mean, I just think from a logical perspective, they may make sense in certain situations. I don't know about every student. I think to me, it's more a matter of how close they are, right? I mean, if we've got situations where we can't get the kids spaced out because of the size of the classroom, I think in that situation, it makes sense to put those shields. But, you know, if we've got the space to space them out, you know, I don't know. There's no science behind that. So we're just kind of looking at it and going, well, it looks like it might work. You know, and those thermal sensors, you know, the studies say, according to our physicians group, the studies say it's somewhere between 35 and 50% of the patients present with some sort of a fever, and you're going to catch, you know, there's a lot of other situations that drive fever. So it's a big, expensive thing that really we need our parents. We need to keep them off the buses to begin with. I mean, we need our parents to be taking these temperatures, and for high schoolers, they need to be taking their own temperatures. And we need to discourage the idea that we've all grown up with, that you go to school, if you feel a little bad, you go to school. I mean, people just need to stay home. And I think hopefully our online learning opportunities allow students to go if they're in quarantine, if they're not feeling well, but, you know, they're not that sick, that they can continue their, to attend. I mean, I think, to me, that's where we need to really focus our money, is in that ability for those students that are in those situations that have to stay home, that they can participate in the live class, not like we were doing, but in a live class where they are looking at the teacher and participating in that class as if they're sitting in that classroom. So, I mean, that's my thought. I think anything we buy needs to have some science behind it. You know,
What dealing with those desk dividers, basically the rationale there, and I think John mentioned K-8, because we're concerned bringing everybody all in based on the sizes of our classrooms, that we're going to be able to get at 6 feet. I mean, we basically said that's going to be very tough for us to do. Those dividers are just another layer of protection, realizing we're probably going to be at 3 feet in a bigger majority of our classrooms. And John, if I have that wrong, jump in there, but I think that's been the conversation that we have had at our building administrator meeting. So that's why, to us, that extra layer makes some sense, because we're not going to be able to keep at 6 feet. So I think that's why we were looking more at K. I think at high school, you know, we're going to struggle a little bit there, but you know, I think the high school maybe is a different enough world where, because our goal is to keep those kids in one room 90% of that day. You know, like I said, especially the K4. So having those barriers there, we think would just be another layer of safety and security. I mean, I doubt there's any science. You're 100% right. For us, it's just another preventative measure. The temperature thing too, I totally agree with you. The only thing that concerns me is in the guidelines, it says schools should take temperatures of students and staff as they enter the building. So the flip side of that would be, you know, having staff members with the handheld ones, you know, doing temperatures. I just don't know how applicable that is. And I really don't want to have bus drivers doing it when kids get on the bus either. I think that's a big ask for drivers. They have enough to worry about. I guess just thinking that through, I mean, those are two items that I think have some merit. Science behind them, probably not. The temperature thing, and you're right, Dave. I think they said like 34.7% or whatever of the kids, you know, that comes into play. But that's one that, you know, we can manage with those devices when kids come in. And actually, this machine has the ability to send you and me a text saying, "Hey, Joe Noah walked in with 102-degree temperature." That's how quick this whole thing can work, and they get it, you know, kind of assigned off to a quarantined area. So as Mr. Two and I have been talking about it, I mean, those are some things that we think have some merit. As Patty said, we got $126,000 of CARES money to go towards these types of investments. I think there's some merit to it. I think it's worth looking at as another level, another layer.
one other thing, by the way, that our physicians pointed out is that 6 feet is kind of a bit of a misnomer, because it's 3 feet from your nose is that viral cloud, I think they called it, and the rest of the world uses 3 feet, and we somehow use 6 feet. I think we use diameter instead of radius.
Radius, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, you know, if we're tighter than the 3 feet, that's where we really, you know, that those shields can come into play and really help. I don't know about you know, let's buy them for every you know, desk in K8. Plus, well, I mean, just logically, I don't know how the kids. I mean, I'm leaning back here. I don't know how the kids are going to stay in that space, and I don't know. I'm.
Are they mounted? Do we know? I guess I didn't. So do they fall off if the kid bumps them?
Probably Velcroed, I would guess.
Attach them to the desk. Some of them have devices that you secure to the top of the desk to keep them on top. One of the companies suggests that you use two-sided, like tape, to tape them down to the desk. Some feel that they can just sit on top of the desk, and this way, if especially at the elementary, If they have to move from one area to another area, like into a group setting, they can pick up their device and take it with them to set it down. So it just depends on what you want to do in that classroom and how we want to attach them to the tables or the desks.
I'm sorry, John. I'm going to act like I heard you, but I really didn't. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. I tried to fix this volume, but I think the only way I could do that is to close down and go back into my settings and try to get something here going, but I don't know what's happening tonight.
Cliff notes are just that they have Velcro and other ways to attach it to the desk.
Okay.
I mean, but I mean, we're talking $50,000 to $100,000 just to do K-8, I would think. It's not if we're going to do every single station, it's not an inexpensive investment.
No, yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I think, John, what kind of numbers would we have K-8 minus the high school? So 1,800, 1,600 maybe?
About 1,600 if we were to buy one for each student.
Yes, that's about $80,000 if we did one for every K-8 kiddo. And to your point, I think it's important. We just need to look at the classrooms as well. Some classrooms are we're really going to be tight, and we know it, versus some other ones maybe where we're going to have a lot more flexibility. And I haven't been in all of them, to be honest with you, but I think that's a place to start.
I think I would take a more logical approach and look at the classrooms. I mean, I would even potentially look at, the teachers. If the teacher is maybe older, look at those kinds of situations, I think. But,
Sure.
I think you need to get the input of the teachers on this too, and
Right,
see what
right.
they think. And,
Yep.
and, we heard from the physicians on it. They weren't impressed. So, but
Right.
there is some value to it.
Yeah. What do you guys think about those thermal imaging machines taking temperatures as kids come in? Do you see merit to that?
I don't not see merit. I just think it's an expense where we can utilize other options, like we said, at the home.
Mhm.
Because honestly, if their temperature's taken before they come to school, that's the best time to take it.
Yep,
They
agreed.
stay home. They don't actually make it into the school, surrounded by other children, and then have a parent come pick them up.
Right. Right.
That's
I'm
just
thinking too, there might be a backlog of when kids enter the building, depending on where they're at. You have some kids come in, they trickle in a little bit at a time, and then at certain times of the day, you got a herd of them.
Mad rush.
You might miss one, you might miss a couple. Yeah, I mean, it's a gamble. It's a gamble. I mean, they're everywhere in hospitals now, the Cleveland Clinic. I mean, you walk in,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm kind of with Tracy on that. I'm not sure if, how accurate, the first, I think, need is for the parents to be very proactive on it at home. Right. And then possibly, maybe, teachers in the classroom when they take attendance. But I think anything coming into the building might be tough because then, how do you monitor it too? I mean, who's watching, or who's the gatekeeper, if you will, of the thermal temperature scan? I mean,
it's software, Matt. It's software and facial recognition. And I mean,
but is it is it a motherboard? Is somebody watching it to then pull that kid aside and say, hey, we got them, or do you get them later in the day?
You got to grab them. I mean, that's the thing. It has to be policed. You get an alert. I would assume you
get like a text or an email from the machine.
And then you got to go find the kid. And then,
if we didn't report, you'd probably have like a hall monitor or an aide, probably kind of already assigned to that area. I'm thinking like the beginning of the school day, the end of the school day, you always have people kind of assigned to that area. It would probably, and our school nurse would probably want to be hanging around there, to be honest with you, and maybe an administrator as well. But
so, are you thinking about that for all the school buildings, or are we? I guess the question becomes: first of all, can it handle mass entry? Does it have to be a single file line entry point for it?
Well, you can't. Our thoughts were to maybe have two. like at the main entrances and have two, because you don't want a whole bunch of people congregating in one area either. You know, we don't want to try to divide and conquer. So we were thinking about like having two of those machines that are at the big heavy entrances and just having two lines of folks coming in. I mean, I've never gone through one, but
Yeah.
what I've seen and heard, it's pretty quick. But that's kind of what we're thinking about.
I just
I'll
think
play the
of,
devil's advocate side and say that to Tracy and Matt's point, I think it's okay to have another layer to kind of check temperatures to make sure that if a parent missed it or they forgot, or
Right.
maybe it was running a little borderline high and they said, nah, it's still good to go. And then they come through the system and it says 100.7,
Yep.
that they shouldn't be there. So I see that value proposition, but again, I think it's almost like we have to look at everything from a wish list and see what the cost is and see how prioritize.
and what layers we want to use, and yeah.
And it's got to be a risk benefit analysis. I mean, that's the thing. What is the level of risk and what is the benefit and what's that cost look like? I know that our physicians group, just to throw it out, did not think it was warranted unless it made people feel better. I mean, that was their comment. If it makes people feel better, maybe it makes sense. But from a scientific medical perspective, it doesn't have a lot of value. So I just think it's again one of those things that's just
And the longevity of the product. I mean, so when COVID's over, do we stop this and we put it in a closet and
Good
you
point.
have to, right?
a lot of money to stuff in a closet.
Because are you going to still grab kids if they're running a fever I mean, I don't know. Kids run fevers in normal times all the time, and we don't send them home from school. You know, it's more on them. And maybe that's not the right way to be, but that's how we've always been.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll just be honest with you. As John and I are talking, we're looking at what layers of safety and accountability can we help just to get the safest environment we can in our buildings. You know, I don't think any of this stuff is foolproof. Our parents are our best line of defense, and we're going to count on them and bless them every day for helping us. But I know how my world is every morning. There's going to be a couple of days where my kid's going to get away from me, and I'm not going to get temperature. I mean, that's just probably going to happen. But I know our parents will be all in. I totally expect that. We're just looking for, we have these extra dollars. What's the best use of these dollars to help with any safety and security for our staff and students in the building? So I appreciate the conversation. It's a good conversation.
So we do have some questions that I think we can. Somebody's wants to say something. I'll let you in a sec. But I just want to say we do have some comments that I think are probably worth bringing up here. So whoever was talking, I missed. Did I step on somebody? Because I had the video covered up with the screen. Okay, so just some questions that I think are easy here. There's a couple of philosophical questions here that I think are better for the parent forum because I think they require more discussion. I'm just going to skip over, and I apologize for that. By semester, do you mean quarter 9 weeks or semester being 18 weeks?
John and I were looking at the 18-week piece.
Right.
Okay. How will attendance work with hours and being truant due to COVID? If we keep our child home for being symptomatic, is that going to affect their attendance hours?
Yeah, John, I know we've had some conversations. You know that a little bit better than I.
I really don't think that's going to be an issue. We all have to have some understanding here and be a little patient and again, understanding. And I think the state is going to give us a little grace with attendance because of this virus.
Who supplies the content for online teaching? Is it CHS teachers or a third party?
That is a great question. My philosophy of that actually changed probably within the last week after talking to all of our teachers in one way, shape, or form. And we're gonna use our Canfield teachers to help facilitate and build this online school. And we're going to use teachers that might have some medical concerns that they don't feel comfortable coming into the all-in, I'll call it traditional school day. So we're going to start with those folks and see what that looks like. But I the more I thought this through, I think that's the best way to go, because you do have the option to use outside people. But I want to put our kids in the best hands that I know, and that's the teachers in Canfield, plain and simple. So that's our hope moving forward.
Hey, Joe, have you heard anything, or John, have you heard anything how that works with like teacher certification? So say, as far as content goes and grade level, because we know how it is in the traditional setting, but I'm wondering if you have a teacher that say is immune compromised, or they volunteer, they would like to choose to help with that, with our virtual online academy. How would that look as far as their licensure, or their, what they're capable of teaching? Does the state, I'm wondering, do they give us any more leeway, or do you have to make sure that teacher's licensed in the area that you're asking them to kind of facilitate online?
I think John knows a little bit more about this than I do, but the first thing, Matt, is we want to remember the old 1-8, the elementary 1-8.
Yep.
That person could teach everything.
Yep.
The folks that have the permanent license, that's kind of a good place to start. But John, do you have any other guidance on that licensure piece?
We do have some leadway there, like with that teacher with the 1-8 certification. And basically, those students will probably be assigned to a teacher, a regular classroom teacher, and then the staff members that we have assigned to the school or to the program, they will assist. Say I'm a second grade teacher and there's a fourth grade student in the program online, that second grade teacher can assist and help with that fourth grade student. And the state's not going to throw any stones at us for that. We do have some leadway there.
Because that teacher would be the teacher of record, Mr. Campbell. I think kind of what the reference is, that grade level, the teacher of record, or online teacher would be there to assist.
Right. The classroom teacher will be a teacher of record, but then it'll be like somebody assisting them.
I spoke to Tracy Hostetler about this a little bit, probably a month and a half ago, and she said that the rules were different for online school. So I don't know. I'm not really up on all those certifications like you guys are, but you might want to talk to her, because she did say that they are pretty significantly different, actually. So
we'll do.
What is the plan for sports busing?
Well, I talked to Mr. Cochran the other day. We're looking at a scrimmage, I think, up at Fitch with 40 some people. So we're going to take 2 buses. I mean, we're going to err on the side of caution as best we can. And luckily, Fitch isn't that far of a drive. So, but I think we're going to have to really work hard on dividing and conquering people on the bus. Because like I said, that scenario does concern me. We're going to open up windows, keep fans moving, wearing our face coverings. But I think moving forward, we want to try to keep as minimal number of people as we can on our buses. I know it's going to get hard when the school year starts, because now you got to find people to drive them, and everybody always gets into that predicament. But we're just going to try to work through that best we can.
Mr. Knoll, that scrimmage, they canceled going to that scrimmage.
Oh, did we? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think we've got to be careful about where we go to. I mean, I got an email from a parent regarding our football schedule. We're going to Cleveland Collingwood, which is in the heart of a now red, possibly by then purple place, kind of like this Columbus tennis trip.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, that's a good point.
I think we need to come up with some policy around that maybe doesn't have us doing that.
Today about that, Dave. And some of the other superintendents agreed that if an area is in red, that they wouldn't be sending their teams to that area.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's something we really have to sit down and discuss.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're in purple, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Good. How are the drivers supposed to make sure students are wearing a mask? This is referring to busing.
School bus.
Like I mean, it doesn't really say this,
On
but I
entry.
mean, are we going to refuse entry, so to speak?
Well, my hope would be we would probably maybe have some extra masks there for kids to put on to get through that scenario. But I think we're going to need to, have some conversation, communication with home if it's repeat offender type scenarios. I mean, I know kids are going to forget it every now and then, but I don't think we deny anybody from getting on. I just think we have, they're not going to be the real fun ones that probably most of the parents are going to get their kiddos, but, just something generic to get through the day would be my recommendation.
Right?
Yeah, we might want to consider having maybe aides for the first week or something riding the buses just to, especially with the I'm not so much concerned about the older kids, but the elementary school kids, just to kind of help facilitate, help help these drivers just deal with this situation. Because I think once kids get into a habit,
Oh yeah.
I mean, the
They'll get the
problem
routine.
Yep.
Plus the little ones, you can't even see them
Yeah.
behind those tall seats. You don't know if they have their mask on or
Yeah,
not.
good point. Once you're on the bus, yeah. Another part there too. I don't think I said this, but we're going to have assigned seats on our buses for our kids as well. Like I said, go all the way to the back, as first one on. But we'll want to have assigned seats because if there is an issue, that will help our local health department as well.
Yeah. So temporary aids for the first week or two probably would be really helpful. I'm sure. I'm sure our bus drivers are going to have some input there and give us their thoughts and ideas there.
Dave, before you go on to the next parent question, just to stay in line with the bus transportation, Mr. Knoll, talking about transportation and how we wouldn't mind if parents took their kids to school just because it would help ease the burden of all the students on the bus. Is there going to be, I mean, maybe you haven't solved for this yet, but is there going to be an opt-in to the bus and an opt-out type of system that we do to help figure out what our capacity will be on each bus?
Yeah, we're gonna post another document online soon. I think we're kind of bombarding everybody right now with this presentation and a survey. I thought we kind of let the smoke clear a little bit, but we are going to have some type of document to at least try to see what our numbers are going to look like on each bus as best we can. I think that would be very beneficial for us.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of questions, and I'm going to just condense all of this theme to one question or two questions, and it really has to do with what happens if a kid is positive, what happens if a teacher is positive, those sorts of things.
Well, the local health department is running the show with all of that. There's some things that we're going to need to do as far as letting them know, but we've heard some things. If you have a fever, you're staying home for 72 hours until you're fever free. But depending on, I guess, the case in the scenario, and John, help me out here because you heard some of this too. It could be a 14-day quarantine. They made it clear that we as a school can't mandate that somebody get tested. What we're hearing is if people have symptoms and they think it's COVID, they're not even testing you. They're just telling you to stay home for those days. We've heard that as well. So they made it clear. They used the terms case by case scenario. So there'll be guidance from the CDC and the local health department, but it's really going to depend kind of on what your scenario looks like. And that probably doesn't answer the question real well, but that's what has been articulated to us thus far. And John, was there anything else to throw in there?
Well, naturally, if a student presents a fever while they're at school, they're going to be quarantined. They'll be sent home. Health department needs to be contacted. The health department will probably do contact tracing. They will probably look at the situation. And what they're telling us right now, too, is that 15 minutes If I
Right.
am only exposed to you for 15 minutes, they're saying you don't have to worry about it. If it's over 15 minutes, if I've been in contact with that person for more than 15 minutes
Right.
within that 3-foot radius,
Right.
then the health department will be sending out phone calls to parents, other parents, or they may ask our administrators to do that, depending on the number of cases they have. We're just going to have to rely on the health department to really give us some information. Now, if a student has been tested and they tested positive before they come back into the building, it was recommended that they get a note from the physician, saying that they are clear to come back into school. So we can't force somebody to have a test, but the doctor could sign off on it and tell us that they're able to come back. If a teacher presents signs, again, we have to go through basically the same protocol. We have to call that health department. The health department will probably reach out to them and ask them a number of questions, and then we'll start the procedure from there. That's the best we can tell you right now.
And when you mentioned, quarantining somebody, a student, staff member, the way I read the restart for schools, is it true that we have to have a separate quarantine holding area? It can't be like, it has to be different from like the nurse's room.
Right. We've established a room, an area in each one of our buildings where the individual will be held until they can be picked up. If it's a student, if it's a teacher, we're going to send them home.
Right.
If they're home. Or if they're sick, I mean, it depends on how sick they are too. Somebody may have to come and get them.
Right.
So there will be a separate area for those individuals. The nurses, we hope to have monitors in those rooms to monitor, probably a camera to monitor those students while they're in there, either through the nurse or the nurse and the secretary or the building administrator. Because our nurses, with the number of students that we have, specifically diabetics, they'll be busy.
They'll have their hands full.
I mean, it almost might, I know it's obviously an expense, but we might need to look at having that parapro or another adult assigned, especially at the start of the year, for each building to assist in that in case, there are a large number of kids. Because like you said, you can't sacrifice the medical attention of the regular students that are visiting the nurse per se.
Right. Yeah. These are things that, we just don't know, and we're going to have to play it by ear. I know that doesn't sound great, but until we get into those situations, we just don't know.
Has there been, maybe this is a question for Patty, as far as what we can use, the money for in the CARES Act, like, is that like out of that amount, are we going to be buying, like getting back to that bus question with the student that may forget their mask, his or her mask, can we purchase large numbers of masks and make sure that they're available for, the transportation coordinator to give, on each bus, and then also each buildings for kids that might forget one for that day of school, in addition to hand sanitizer, all those things that, everyone's searching for and looking for. I'm wondering, if we have to place that order relatively soon to make sure that we get them prior to the start of the year.
Yeah, Matt, we already have an inventory of that stuff that we just, about a month ago or so.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
The big need is if we just decide to move forward with these temperature taking devices and the dividers, because those are time sensitive. If we're going to move forward with them, we're going to need to act pretty quick. That's the big ask right now.
And with the masks as well, and I know we're talking about educating family, students, teachers, but I know a big thing with masks is cleaning them, like washing your masks. You can't wear them over and over and over, 7 days a week, all day long. They have to be maintained and they have to be laundered.
Yeah.
And some people, believe it or not, they don't realize that.
Like, I got to think, just, how teachers teach those first few days of school and weeks, it's going to be a new normal. I mean, like, such a huge priority is going to have to be placed on safety, hygiene,
Hand washing. Yeah.
self-awareness, hand washing. I mean, everything, and taking ownership and sanitizing and cleaning your own area.
True.
Whether that's a kindergartner using a wipe to clean off his or her desk, throughout the day, to a high school student helping with cleaning off the desk that they're in at the end of the day. Because I don't think it can fall just on the custodians at night. It's going to be a huge undertaking and really like a buy-in. Like, this is a team effort.
No doubt.
From the youngest child to the oldest, child in the district.
Yeah, and on that topic, we didn't talk much about what our physicians told us. They said that really the only scientifically proven method of prevention is hygiene, hand washing and hygiene. There's a lot of evidence, that masks may not be all that effective and so forth. So it's really the one that is proven is hygiene and hand washing. The other thing we didn't really point out is that the physicians were adamant about the fact that the transmissibility of the virus in children is extremely low. And that is really what works in our favor. I think, one of the things when we have this parent forum that we do need to come up with a date, I have it on my notes to make sure we figure that out, is, I think they're going to come and answer a lot of parents' questions and staff's questions. I think too, I don't know if you're going to have a separate staff meeting with them, with those physicians present, but they were very adamant about the fact that is what works in our favor here, that the transmissibility in young people under 18 is extremely low. And they likened it to, the risk to those, to people under 18 is higher on the car ride to school and back than it is to, from the virus. So, more questions here. Okay, we hit on the fact that we're definitely posting this. Somebody says, how are you going to manage the kids staying 6 feet apart? And I don't know if you want to
Just
comment.
that's the best we can and ask for 6. Sometimes we'll get 3. I mean, that's just kind of how it's going to end up. But I've watched kindergartners and first graders walk down the hall. That's a tough sell.
Yeah.
They're behind one another. So but we'll work on it for sure.
I wanted to point out, one of the things that we've got to be careful of, if we've got this room and multiple sick kids, our physician said that these kids are more likely to have other illnesses than COVID because of, just evidence, flu and those kinds of things. So we've got to be careful we don't cross-pollinate, students. If we just have this one room and we put 6 kids and 4 of them don't have COVID, I mean, we're really just spreading around the flu potentially. We've got some people commenting from India on our YouTube comments.
Really?
Somebody said love from India.
Awesome.
Well, a couple people throwing stones at the plan. And again, if you don't like the plan of going in person, that's why we've got the online option for sure. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out, when we talked about notifications, parents parents really need to understand that we have at least 3 federal laws that govern release of student information. And basically it means that we can't tell people names and things. So I think what you're going to find is even when you're told, hey, your kid may have been exposed, they probably aren't going to find out who they were exposed from the district. And I don't know if the health department, I mean, I would assume they're under the same rules. I don't know if they have special authority.
Well, there was a little exemption based on the severity. They did talk
Okay.
about that, but HIPAA and FERPA, all the things I think you're talking about are live for us big time here at the district.
So they have more leeway is what you're saying. So they
they're-
may be able to say to a parent, such and such is who's the carrier,
Yeah.
but we probably can't legally
That's how it
tell
was
anybody
explained to
that.
us. We're mentioning no names when we call the health department. You know, we can't get too detailed.
Right. So parents need to understand that. I know that that's come up a number of times in various situations where we didn't release people's names, and everyone has to understand that there are at least 3 federal laws that control all this for schools. So somebody says, what if you have a parent that doesn't think their kid's temperature being up slightly warrants their child to stay home, and then others get exposed? I mean, I think we just have to continue to encourage right alongside everyone else that you stay home if you're sick, and you keep your kids home if you're sick, and you know,
Right.
that's what you do. And then you know, we've got to go from there. Let me just check Google again here and see if we've got everything. Somebody wrote, just to clarify, if I start my kids in class, I will be able to take them out at the end of the semester, and hang on, I will be able to take them out and put them in an online class, or vice versa.
That's a good question, because John and I were talking specifically about the online class. If you start there, you stay there for a semester. I hadn't really thought about going vice versa.
Yeah.
But the semester time just makes more sense if you're going to make a move like that. That's something we'll have to chat about probably a little bit more, that piece of it. But
the
like-
other scenario is we react by a classroom, because we have an exposure in a classroom. So potentially we could continue the class, but in a remote setting for the 14 days,
right,
and then bring them back and never really stop the class sessions.
That is,
which is a little
100%
different.
accurate. Yep. If
Yeah.
that situation arises, that we do have that option. And it
That
could
would
be
be
the
different
teacher
then,
that's
right?
quarantined and still be able to, participate as well, depending on his or her health.
Right.
You know, another thing I thought of too, this is more of a, playing devil's advocate, but also being prepared. If we start, things go great, as planned, as we all hope that we are, hope and pray that they do. I think another important part of the teachers and students interacting at the beginning of the school year is to prepare for a worst case situation. And if we have to go online, part of those first few weeks of school, first month of school, we have to prepare all the way from kindergarten all the way up to, the seniors in high school. Hey, this is the protocol. If we have to go online for any length of time, this is what we're using. Google Classroom. This is how it's working. This is going to be the mode of communication. That way parents too are prepared, as well as the kids. And I'm thinking even in the younger grades too, God forbid we have to, go online at some point during this school year. That way we're kind of, prepared. Kids are ready for technology.
They know the platform.
Yep.
You're 100% right. We've had a lot of good conversations about that. Like I said, that's plan number one. Sadly, we have to get ready for that. And you mentioned another part. We've talked about this. We might need to coach up our parents a little bit.
Oh no,
Google Classroom and Google Meet, and we've talked about what that could look like. And I think we're going to have some people be able to put some training videos together. To be honest with you, you can do a lot of that. I think probably you can Google it and get it. But
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of neat to have some of our gurus
Oh,
have
yeah,
some
sure.
videos ready for our parents, because everybody got thrown into it, back in March. But now that this is going to be our main hub, we want to educate everybody. So parents are going to be included. We're going to get them involved. Good point.
Okay, we have a bunch of questions around recess, gym, music, art. And basically, what are we doing there? That's the question.
Well, I know, John, we've had a lot of discussions on music. And I don't know if we had any final kind of guidance on, we're looking at some instruments that might cause us some grief. We're just going to play some of that by ear. Was there any other guidance discussed today in the SUPS
Number of
meeting?
the districts are probably, art is really not a problem because that can be more of an individual activity. Art teacher, especially at the elementary, they can go into the rooms and do some individual activities with the students. The physical education creates a problem. Although, the physicians suggested, as much physical activity, we can get the kids outside, let them spread out, get some exercise, get some air. They're going to be sitting behind a desk. And so whatever we can do to get them up and outside and moving like that, we have to be careful of the activities. You don't want certain activities where the kids are going to become in contact with each other. But there are some things that in physical education, we should be all right. It may be different than what we're used to. Music, a number of the schools are not going to have kids singing right now. There are some studies going on about band instruments. Mr. Knoll spoke briefly about that. I think the flute was the number one violator, and we're going to wait for a study to come out. I know Mr. Bolnick the other day when we met with our CEA leadership and was going over our plan a couple weeks ago with them, Mr. Bolnick said that informed us about a study, and we would be waiting for that study to come out as far as band. Even there, they don't want people in a closed environment. If you go outside, you want to practice an instrument outside, that's the best place to go. That's what we're being told right now. A number of the districts today indicated, like for football games, no traveling to away games, that we would stay just and perform on our home games. I think we're very fortunate this year. We have 7 home games out of 10.
Oh, wow.
So that shouldn't be a big issue for us. But we're going to have to wait on some research before we make a final decision. But that elementary music is going to create a real problem for us right now, the way it's what we're being told anyway.
Yeah, and then did we hit recess in there? Did I miss that?
Recess, that's another area for that physical education teacher possibly to, just get those kids outside, weather permitting. That's going to be the other issue. With the beautiful weather we're having now, that's not a problem. But when we're in the middle of the winter and it's sub-zero, I don't know what we'll do.
Yeah, we were told to try to stay away from playground equipment as well. That was another piece of the puzzle too.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they could just, if we can, I know this, who knows, but when the weather's nice, if, you rotate different times that they get outside, regardless of the traditional recess after lunch, but you just incorporate, maybe we can incorporate 20 minutes, 30 minutes during the school day of those kids getting out and moved around, whether it be outside when the weather's nice, but in the cafeteria that's open, or, in the elementary school gym / cafeterias, just where they can move around a little bit during the day. But it might happen at 10 o'clock versus 12 o'clock after lunch,
Or if there's a unit, they like science, and we can get them outside.
Right.
We can take them outside. they want us to get kids outside as much
Yeah.
as possible.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yep. Even classes, even classes with the teacher, if there's a nice day, they get outside for an English class
Yeah,
versus.
go out and read.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea anytime, but
Yep.
but for sure during this situation, we need to try and get those kids out for sure. There's a lot of questions around the online school, and I really think that that's best handled in that planned forum, which again, the date is.
Oh, I think the first one we were going to do a virtual one. I believe it was the 28th. Yeah, it's July 28th. But we're going to have a Google Doc that you can sign up, like to do a pre-register.
Yep.
If you're interested, and then the virtual piece will be July 28th at 6 p.m.
Yeah, so that'll be a Q&A, and so a lot of these questions about the online school, digital academy, will be covered there. I think the only thing that has come up, and it wasn't asked today, but I saw it online a bunch of times or a couple times. And I'll just take it. The kids continue to be Canfield students. There was some questioning about, does that mean they're not a Canfield student? They will always be a Canfield student. They will always be eligible for extracurriculars and all of those things. So
that's correct.
Yes, you're right.
yeah, and we didn't point that out. So that is definitely something to consider. If you have concerns about going back to school, and our plan, that's why it's there. That is out there so that you can take advantage of that if that makes you more comfortable, because this is a very difficult decision, I know, for parents. I mean, I know that I'm sending my kids. I know that every one of the doctors that were in our physicians group are sending their kids. And I think Dr. Burnett specifically, he made a pretty impassioned statement around the fact that he would never put his child in harm, and he does not view this as harm. He views the kids not going to school as being much more harmful to them in a long-term way than the potential of, even if they do contract COVID, just the impact on kids. So, and like I said, I think our plan is to have them available to talk to parents and staff. Do we want to set that time for the parent forum? There's a bunch of questions about when that's going to be. And that's going to be both in person and virtual, right? That's the plan. So
Yeah,
we'll
I
have
think
to
we
figure
can,
out the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Will you send out an all call just to let people know?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
The only concern I have is I still think the definition of a mass gathering is still 10 people. I still think that order is out there. And I don't know if and when that's been changed by the governor. Hopefully it will be.
I think it
don't
must
know.
be higher, Joe, because
Yeah,
Austin Town's doing.
Okay, it's got to be. I just probably have missed it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I think there is a limit though. If I think what I saw was 300.
Right. That's what
It's either 100 or 300 because
because weddings and receptions are allowed,
Okay.
but
Okay.
they have to fall under
That's
the
good.
guidelines. Yep.
Yeah. So it may be a situation where we've got to, count heads.
Yeah.
And when we get to a point, they're going to have to watch online, or we create a second venue. Maybe we have a sign up just so we at least get an idea of how many people are going to physically come versus remote.
Right. Yeah. I just recommend the 6-foot rule. Like if we do in the auditorium or cafeteria and people wearing masks, I think we just set that as our standard and then see how many people we can accommodate in a safe way.
Right. Well, but we could potentially have 2 venues in the high school. We could even maybe use the stadium. I don't know. So we've got to figure that out, obviously, but but maybe getting an idea. You guys are sending out that survey. Maybe throw that question in there. Would you, are you planning on attending the parent forum in person? And that way, at least we could get some general idea. Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 1,000?
So we were looking at rolling out like our final plan, like August 3rd. is what we're hoping to do. Collect input, look at the survey. And so after August 3rd is kind of what you're thinking. So have a parent meeting and say, okay, here's our plan, roll it out officially, and then have a Q&A time. Is that kind of what you're? Okay.
Yeah, I think we maybe, the way I see it happening, you know, maybe you have that kind of a summary, kind of like what you just did with whatever additional details we've got there.
Yep.
And then a Q&A, we can have the physicians committee on hand. I think, I don't want to commit anybody, but I think Dr. Van Glarsik is willing to come back for another meeting. I know we kind of, Dr. Burnett kind of twisted his arm. He's a pediatric infectious disease expert, doctor. So I know he would be super valuable if we could have him on hand, if we can make that work. But so what about maybe Wednesday the 5th or Thursday the 6th? Does that work? Either one of those?
Yeah, I don't see, John, is there anything, you probably know the calendar better than I do. Is August the 5th a good date?
We talked about that, and Thursday, the 6th was a better date.
The 6th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's just, I'm just trying to see if I could maybe get an idea of if Dr. Van Glarsik would be available. I don't know if I can get an answer that quick, but so we want to do it the 6th at 6 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay. Then I don't think we're getting an answer that quick. So, okay. So let's do that. So August 6th, 6 o'clock. It's going to be both in person and online. We're going to have to limit the numbers, the quantities. And we'll have the principals, we'll have the physicians group, all available. Maybe somebody from the health department. I think we can get them as well.
Yeah, Ryan would maybe be available to come help us out.
Or Susan.
Susan, yeah, she'd be a good one too. Yeah.
Yep. So get them there, and you know, that will be the best place to get questions answered. Somebody just posted any plans to recognize the upcoming seniors on their NHS induction. I think Joe, for Joe's edification, I think we put off the NHS and the junior NHS induction for this year, but that's going to be tricky because of the no assemblies. So that's going to have to be something we figure out, because we really do need to recognize those students. Maybe we do something virtually, or maybe we can do something out on the field, or I don't know. Maybe while the weather's still nice.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe put that on the.
How many NHS kiddos were there?
Ooh,
John?
a number. We have a large class.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
have to look at that and see.
Yeah, that's right. That's something we can think about.
Yep.
Maybe we could do something like you said, Dave, out on a football field one evening.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be different than our typical program, but
Yep. Yeah, but I think it can be special. I mean, we've
Right.
proven that we're able to make odd things special. So.
right.
Okay. I think that is all I had as far as all of that. Oh, well, I guess it's not about reopening, but I do have one other thing to bring up. But so anything else as far as the reopening?
It's a lot of good discussion tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Knoll, Mr. Tullio.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Dave, did you have something else?
I do. Hang on. I'm just checking. There are some more comments. So there are more good comments or questions, I guess, but I really think at this point we've kind of got to. It's 8:35. We've got to push that out until that parent forum. So, you know, jot your questions down and bring them to that forum, and we'll go over that. Yeah, the other thing was I'd like to going forward move back to having in-person meetings, board meetings. I would like, and I guess I'd like to hear the opinion of the rest of the board, but I'd like to continue to stream on YouTube. I know I'm fairly certain that we can't take comments on YouTube anymore. If you know, if we're back in person, they have to be in-person comments, I think legally. But I do think there's a lot of benefit to, I think anytime our community is involved in our meetings, I think that's a good thing. And I think there's been a lot more involvement in these YouTube videos. A lot of people have seen them that have never seen board meetings, and I really think it's a good thing. So, and I talked a little bit to George about the tech involved and maybe getting that board office or that boardroom set so that it would be fairly easy to have, you know, meetings, and that would also give you some ability to have, you know, these kinds of Zoom meetings on demand in that room. So I think that would be beneficial as well. So I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on their thoughts there.
I would defer to Mr. Knoll on Ms. Tulio on their comfort level at that point, and then I'd go with it. Did I freeze?
No, you're just really quiet for some reason. I don't think your headphones.
Oh, sorry. I said I would defer to probably Mr. Knoll and Mr. Tulio and their comfort level, and just because I think we need them to be a part of it. And so if you're good with that, I'm good with it. But if you feel like it's early, I mean, just looking at the layout of the room and how we'd be able to make it work, if it can work, I'm for it. But I'll defer to you guys.
Well, the other option would be to move it out of the boardroom. The tech becomes a little bit more difficult potentially, but maybe not. I mean, theoretically, we could move it to the media center.
Mm-hmm. That gave us more space to kind of spread out, right? In where we met the other night in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that if we are going to go live, just having a little bigger venue, I guess, than just the boardroom, if it can be, you know, managed technology wise. I'm not sure what George office is at compared to that, but I think it's pretty close, isn't he, to the media center too?
Yeah. Well, and the tech, there's more tech there, so
yeah,
there's really nothing in the boardroom other than now a conference phone. So
yeah.
Well, so maybe we look at outfitting something in the conference room or in the boardroom so that we have it, you know, moving forward, and then, but maybe having the board meeting location be the media center for the foreseeable future, and potentially, I know a lot of people have limited the number of attendees to some number, so we may want to look at doing that, you know, figure out how many people we can put in there with social distancing and then limit it to that. And then after that, you've got to go virtual, kind of like what we were talking about that meeting.
We just post maybe a sign-up sheet on our website, you know, the people that want to attend in person, it's first come, first serve, and it's limited, you know, it's capped.
Yeah, we just have to be careful. We have to run that by the attorney because there is some law around that. I mean, and I know, like, one thing I know that I don't think we can do, for example, is let's say we limit it because of the space to 50 people. 50 people come in, and the 51st person wants to say something. We got to figure out a way to get that person in so that they can make a comment. So we're going to have to come up with some accommodations there. I mean, that's highly unusual to get that many people, but like today, had we had this meeting non-virtually, I think we would have had, you know, a lot of people. So
how about we keep next month's as is virtual until we can work through the logistics, or at least say, let's start working on the logistics instead of, you know, spending, I mean, it's probably gonna take time to figure that out now. And to your point, it being 8:40, I think it'll. So if we know that we could look into it, and for the sake of everybody listening, if we know that next month will stay virtual, and then with hopes of transitioning to live meetings after that one until we can figure out the
Shoot for
logistics.
September.
My concern is, I mean, we're putting kids in the school. So if we can't figure this out, I mean.
Well, I mean, let's just work on the logistics, and then we'll announce what our make the announcement of the meeting after we figure out the logistics. I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it all solved today.
For what it's worth, I would suggest that you consider using the auditorium at the high school instead of the media center.
Yeah, I was just, John,
Yeah.
great minds think alike. I was just getting ready to think that, because we could definitely spread out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do have a precedence for that because we've already done that and done the tech, and yeah, so maybe that's the solution.
Maybe for the August at least.
Yeah. I know we have one coming up that's a special that we usually don't have anybody show up for, so we might be able to do something different there. I don't know, or maybe we just treat it as a test run by having it in the auditorium, because there's that noon meeting on August 5th. That's a quick special. So. Okay. Well, we'll figure this out and get it announced.
All right, we are going to go into executive session.
Okay.
Before we do that, I'd just like to thank everybody who took part in helping us develop this plan, this draft plan. We've had a number of parents that returned their surveys, and we really appreciate your input. We've had phone calls from parents. We've talked to teachers. Our CEA, the leadership team, they sat down with us a couple weeks ago, and we went over the plan with them. We'd like to thank them. Everybody, our administrators, I can't thank our administrators enough for the time and effort that they put in dealing with me, calling them late at night, coming up with ideas and just talking to them through different scenarios. They put an awful lot of time in so far. I think after today's meeting that we had with area superintendents, I think we're a lot further ahead than a number of the districts in our area. Everybody's been working hard trying to come up with plans. So I appreciate board members, your input, everything. And this being my last go around as your interim superintendent, I thank you for that opportunity, for the confidence. I hope I didn't let you down, but I do look forward to Mr. Knoll taking over.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, John. You had the helm and during a really tough time. In fact, I would be hard pressed to come up with a more difficult situation for an interim superintendent or anyone to be in than the situation you navigated us through this past 6 months. This was you got every curveball, fastball, slider.
Absolutely.
Yep. Screwball.
That's
Yeah.
right.
No.
I'm the baseball guy.
Hey, whenever, John, you're ready to go out for a drink, first couple rounds are on me.
Oh, geez.
Or I'll come to your house. I don't care.
All right. But I will say, you know, in my total career, this has been the most difficult time. To have to deal with what we're dealing with, all districts are dealing with at this time. And just the parents just need to know that their children are the most valuable asset that we have. And we take great pride and try to do the best job that we can for them. And know that this can change at any minute. I think, Tracy, you said it at the very beginning, okay? Come 8 o'clock on the first day of school, it could change at that time. And we have to be ready to do that. And I know our teachers and our administrators, we're going to be ready if that happens. We will be ready. rest assured. Will we make mistakes? Probably, but we're going to pull up our bootstraps and we're going to go in the right direction. Just don't throw stones at us. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Yeah. We just ask everybody to have grace because this is going to be hard.
Yeah. Well said.
Thanks, John. Can I have a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of negotiations?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and just for everybody, since we've still got 115 people with us, we're going to enter executive session. When we come back, I don't expect any board action. Is that correct, Joe and John? We don't have anything.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll record coming back and voting to adjourn the meeting, but I don't expect any reason to hang around. But of course, you're welcome to. We won't stop you, but it's also being recorded. So thank you, everybody that joined us, and we look forward to seeing you at that parent meeting that's coming up. So all in favor of entering executive session, say aye. Aye. Trace? Aye.
Aye, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm sorry. The dog got into something upstairs. Sorry.
And Matt, we can't hear you, or we can't see you, I should say. So I assume you said aye, and you're muted.
Yeah, he's muted too.
Matt? I screwed you up by not doing a roll call, Patty. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Matt? I think he's, well,
He said aye.
mark him down as an abstain.
He said aye.
We still had 3. Okay, thank you. George, I will text you when we're done. I'll go ahead and boot you out for now, though. right, welcome back to the 40 people that are still watching. Wow. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Nader Atway will make the motion to adjourn for this evening.
Apple will second.
I can't believe Tracy was not the primary there.
No, I
All
gave
in
it to
favor?
Leah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed besides Tracy?
You're right.
The motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.
Dave,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me better now?